Hello, beautiful vegans. Welcome to Empowered Vegans, the show that inspires and empowers vegans to live their best lives. Hosted by me, vegan empowerment coach, Mariquita Solis. Each week, I feature leading experts in the vegan and plant-based world, sharing inspirational stories, practical tips, and empowering conversations. My mission is to support the vegan community in living a fulfilling, joyful life while making a positive impact on the world. As a transformational coach, I also offer coaching programs to help vegans navigate challenges and create a life that aligns with their values. So I'm excited that you all are here today. Please let StreamYard have permission to use your name, and please get your comments and questions for us, because I'm really excited to welcome my guest today, Director of the Georgia chapter of the League of Humane Voters, John Eberhart. Thank you for joining us, John.
Thank you for having me with you and your viewers.
Well, we're excited. I want to find out the facts, as much facts as we can on voting, because a lot of times people say, well, I don't have time for that. It doesn't even count. You know, a lot of people feel like, well, there's no point in it. So I want to hear this wisdom. But first, I'd like to hear how did this even start for you? When did you become aware of this greater awareness of living beings and food and everything?
A long time ago, as a kid in the suburbs of Atlanta, I remember a day at Boy Scout camp in which I had to make a choice between a merit badge entitled Nature and a second one entitled Wildlife Management. And I remember my reaction to that second title. I don't know exactly what that is, but it doesn't quite right. And indeed it is.
Wow, that must have been a long time ago.
Yeah.
You've been an animal activist.
I'm 74 now.
Okay, 74. I never would have noticed. Thought that. So, okay, wonderful. All right, so let's get down to it. So, what would you say to someone that says there's no point in voting, that your vote doesn't count?
Thomas Paine wrote that voting is the most important right because all your other rights depend on it. And that voting in the upcoming election in 2024 will, I'm sure, be the most important vote of our life. It's vitally important. Another way to frame this would be to ask, would people like to do away with freedom and democracy? If Donald Trump is elected, it will have that effect. There's no question about it.
All right. Let's see here. Can you hear me, John?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I was just trying to switch speakers because someone said, Deb says you have an echo. So I was trying to switch headsets. Maybe that would be better.
Okay.
But Deb, let us know if we're still echoing here. I don't know how to do this smoothly, how to switch to this thing. But yeah, we've got to really step up our game when we're talking about getting out to the elections. And so how do we really find out what's going on behind the scenes?
Well, the League of Humane Voters, what we do, we don't ask people to become political themselves. We'll do that. But we ask that people join with us. They sign up with our organization, Georgia Voters, so that we can email them our list of animal-friendly candidates in the run-up to an election.
So what if you don't live in Georgia?
Well, we have chapters in 2 states now, and people are invited to go to LOHV.org. That is League of Humane Voters.org, and to sign up with a. If there's a chapter in state, they'll be referred to the chapter. If there's not, we might like to call them and discuss whether they'd like to start where they are.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, we need chapters in every state. We need to be on the ball here. And a lot of people don't know what can I do to be an activist, or where do I need to be? They don't want to be possibly out there picketing, or not picketing, but with a sign. That's not for a lot of people. So this is more behind the scenes. Is that true?
Yes. Animals are affected far more by your state legislature than by the president or Congress. But very few people know who their state representative or state senator are. We help them to find that out, and we invite people to call the district office of their state senator, state representative, when their legislature is out of session, and ask for a meeting in their office, a sit-down meeting eye to eye with their elected representative. Politicians want to know what their constituents want, and it's a great opportunity to stand up for animals.
Sorry, John, I was having issues with I'm trying to connect to the headset, but anyway. So the state is more important than that we get out and vote for our state.
What legislature does.
Okay.
In Georgia, we have 180 state representatives and 56 state senators. Those are the people that are most important to influence. In this past year, 300 bills have been introduced in 23 states to restrict voting, to make it harder to vote. 13 of these passed and are now state laws. So people have to try harder than ever to vote and see to it that their vote is counted.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, we have Republican supermajorities in many states. The League of Humane Voters is independent and nonpartisan, not affiliated with any political party. There are here and there Republican heroes for animals. But in general, the Democrats have represented animals better than Republicans.
Well, that's good to know. John, can you do me a favor and make sure that all your tabs are closed on your phone? JJ's saying that maybe the YouTube tab, or there might be a StreamYard tab open on your phone or on the computer that's echoing.
No.
Nope. Okay. Well, all right, John, you keep talking, because I'm going to try to switch to this headset and see if that makes it better for everyone. Okay. So let's say if we don't even know where to start. Can you point us in that direction?
First, everyone has to be registered to vote. Some states have automatic voter registration. In Georgia, a person must be registered 30 days before an election to be eligible to vote. Many people, young people especially excited to vote for the first time in a presidential election, miss that step and find too late that they're not eligible. So we encourage everyone to look at their voter registration now, and if they're not registered, to get registered in their state. Then to begin to learn the candidates locally for them and dig in and find out where the candidates stand on the issues.
Oh, okay. I'm back. Am I interrupting you?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, go. I don't know if you're in the middle of saying something.
No, I was finished.
Okay, great. All right. So register. All right, register to vote. And then, so how, like I asked before, then how can we be certain, or what do we need to do? How much? So I've written letters to my representatives, and I get just the same old letter back, and I feel like, is this even real? Do they? What do you say to that? Because I feel like, well, what's the point in writing letters? It's just they're going to send out some standard thank you.
It's important with politicians to be specific in what you're asking for, to name a bill properly, and to include the bill number, such as SB or HB. Politicians don't like to be asked vague or open-ended questions about where they stand on an issue. They'd like you to be specific in your request. So that's why getting in the swing with organizations that are already working in your state, such as the Georgia Pet Coalition that works on companion animals, and Georgia Animal Rights and Protection, also called GARP, and the League of Humane Voters. And we'll let you know what bills are hot. And often you have a situation where the fate of a bill is controlled by a single member in a committee, and the bill has to pass favorably from that committee before it can go on to a floor vote. So knowing who these players are and influencing them to vote the way we need them to is even more important than knowing how to vote oneself. But you have to know a subject well yourself, and that means you have to dig in and do some homework. What is the issue? What is the animal issue that really has the fire in the belly for you as an individual? Is it laboratory animals? Is it animals raised for food? In my case, it's wild animals. That's the one to specialize in. And if you start reading and brushing up on that subject yourself, you can become the expert, and you be on an interview show yourself, advocating for animals.
Okay,
everyone has a gift. What is the individual's gift, and how best to use it? Because progress for animals occurs along a broad front.
Okay, well, this is some good information. So I would look up who is already working on this in my state. I would contact them. And then I would also think about which animals do I want to really concentrate on that way? Because it seems like, oh my gosh, how can I study all this, right? It seems like too much. But once you focus in on it, then you can really have a lot better impact. And it's not so, it's more manageable, right? And
yes,
that's hard. Yeah. But no, I love that. I think about all these animals that I really care about, but I love the way that you are focused when you know where your focus is. And I remember you telling me that, Georgia Animal Rights and Protection, certain people are working on certain, like Sonia. Sonia,
yeah.
go ahead and talk about that, please.
Well, last time I spoke with Sonia, she was working on the matter of mink raised in fur ranches. They're called ranches or farms, but that's a misnomer. They're really cages about not much bigger than a shoebox.
Oh my God.
Very cruel conditions, and usually anally electrocuted to kill them so that it doesn't mess up their pelt. But they are a species that is vulnerable to COVID, and there can be slop over, what's called spillover of a pathogen like that between humans and mustelids, the animals of which mink are one species. So that is an unnecessary industry. It is one that's dying anyway as the public learns about fur and rejects it. And that has the fire in the belly for Sonia. She's campaigning on that issue.
Yeah, and she's really working hard with reaching out to John Ossoff, right? To their
Yeah. The Humane Society Legislative Fund is part of the Humane Society of the United States. Their website is hslf.org. And there you can see a scorecard of how your representatives in Congress, your congressmen and U.S. senators, have voted on animal-related bills. There they give numeric scores. Warnock, last time I looked, was a score of 100, and Ossoff was very little, comparatively a very poor rate of his votes. But you'll also be impressed by how many bills are introduced, but how many really make it to a floor vote. And that's a reflection again of the labyrinth of committees that a bill must pass through first.
And tell me that website again. I'm going to put it on the screen.
Humane Society Legislative Fund, hslf.org.
Okay. And that's where we can check out how they're voting.
Scores of your congressmen and U.S. senators.
Okay. hslf.org.
Right.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, that's very, very important that we check and that we're regularly checking this scorecard and that I work with, I'm a member of Georgia Animal Rights and Protection. So that I'm not doing it by myself because I can't even imagine if I thought, well, how am I going to do this by myself? And I wouldn't be as powerful as someone who's already working on it and knows how to do it the right way.
But you can certainly visit your person in their district office, including your U.S. senator and your congressperson.
So I could go down and visit John Ossoff?
Yes, you can. Call his office and ask for an appointment, and go talk to him eye to eye. A very good thing to and plan what to say, then say it. Rehearse it at home. think about what you're asking for. Is it a yes? Can you make it into a yesable proposition that is easy for the elected official to say yes to? A very good way to put this is to say, when you are about to cast a vote on an animal related bill, I'd like you to stop and ask yourself, how will this affect the individual animal and that animal's family and friends? Often people think of animals as populations or species as collectively, but they don't think about one life at a time. How will that life be affected? It personalizes animals to say he and she.
Mm-hmm. Those are great points.
That works
I love
very
that.
well. Mm-hmm.
Right. So we got some comments here. I want to say hello to Angela. Thanks for joining us. JJ is joining us, and Deb. And so I think the echo's gone. So let's see here. What have we got here? Something from Deb. Do petitions really have any impact? Is it better to call or email elected officials?
Petitions can work. Petitions often, if we are wanting to influence, say, the government of Indonesia to stop dog meat farming, dog slaughterhouses, petitions are in that case often almost all that we have. There are field people working on this, working very hard, but as U.S. citizens way over here, petitions are about it for us. Other occasions, I think they get ignored, but it's better to call and speak to a person face to face than to email. If email is all you have, but it's very many of us in the animal work, I include myself in this, are introverts. It is too easy and tempting for us to hide behind our computer than to mix it up with people. But it is people whom we must influence. We must sell them on the rightness of our ideas. We go into this because of a love of nature, but we run headlong into bad old human nature. But it is people that we have to influence, so we need to mix it up directly with people. Let them see you smile, that you are reasonable, you don't have horns. And it makes it, making it more personal really does help, even with enemies. And in the area that I work on, we have very powerful enemies. But and they are desperate to discredit us. But if we show them that we are other citizens like them, and we're good people, and we're earnest and sincere in our beliefs, that has persuasive power.
Well, I'm excited. I want to go make an appointment with John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock after this.
Almost no one does it, but it's surprising how effective it really is.
Well, all right. I want everybody to hear that. Almost no one does it, but how effective it is, right? So let's all make appointments. Yeah, and go down there and get prepared, like John's saying.
Knowing each other personally really does help.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, and then you can I can make an appointment now, and then I can make another one in 2 months. And that.
The Congress people often call meetings in their district offices "going native." That's their term of art for it, and it's good to go native with them.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is
And then
very
as you get to know each other, and this is doubly so of your state representative and state senator, um, the whole subject is less abstract and more concrete and easily understood.
Yeah, I can see that.
If the person you're trying to that you're meeting shows a resistance to your ideas, ask the question, what is your reservation? Why not? What seems to be preventing you from doing as I urge you to? An excellent book on persuasion, and I've read many, is a cheap paperback that you can probably get for 75 cents from Amazon. The title is Getting Through to People by a psychologist named Nierenberg. Getting Through to People is well worth ordering and going through, especially the chapter about meeting resistance.
Okay.
Resistance on the part of the listener is what has him stuck and prevents him from accepting your ideas. It's kind of like if we were in a canoe trip together going down a shady stream, suddenly the canoe stops because we've run into a sandbank. One of us at least has to get out of the canoe and dig the sand away to underneath to refloat the canoe. That's what we have to do to get going again. The author explains that fresh ideas are not, people don't take them in by them being pounded in from the outside. It's more like you're a tailor and the person needs to put on your idea and look in the mirror to see how he looks in it, wearing your idea.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Getting Through to People. So we all have to go get that book. This is a lot of new insight here. And 75 cents, you can't beat that. You find it on Amazon. Yeah, perfect. All right. So so now we've got a bunch of different ideas. And I know what I'm going to do now. And I'm excited. I like to talk to people. So that's funny that Angela said that I would make wouldn't Mariquita make the best spokesperson. I can see her in that meeting. She'd be like, Norma Ray for the animals, but with love. Thank you, Angela. That's sweet. I would love to do it. So let me show you also.
You have a great deportment for a meeting with people. You have an open expression and welcoming.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I'm excited to
You're just right for that role.
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of meeting. Yeah, definitely. Now that you've showed me how. So
shifting gears here, if we may, I'd like to talk about my pet subject area, which is wild animals.
Let me ask you one thing real quick.
Okay.
This comment by Deb. She says, have you read the book Get Political for Animals by Julie
and
Lewin?
thank you for mentioning that, by Julie Lewin. And it's one that you can download, Google it and download, and it's excellent.
Great. All right, so we got 2 books now. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about wildlife. And tell me how long you've been working on wildlife, John.
As an activist, 37 years. A question to begin. Who owns America's wild animals?
Put it in the chat, y'all.
See if anybody gets it. The answer is that you do. We all own wild animals together. But like happens with in many areas, something that belongs to everybody and nobody is vulnerable to exploitation by a few people. And an interesting fact is that in America, we own our homes and the land our homes are on, but we do not own the wild animals on our land more than any other citizens. So someone on the other end of the state owns a fox crossing my front yard every bit as much as I do. Hunters and trappers do not own wild animals more than any other citizens until it's dead. Then when it's dead, they own it. The U.S. Supreme Court found that wildlife belongs to all citizens. Government, interestingly, like our Department of Natural Resources in Georgia, does not own wildlife either. It is a trustee for the owners, that is, again, all the people. But in practice, the Department of Natural Resources, it does many excellent things, and it has several divisions, most of which are very good. But in the wildlife division, what is called the game management section, are state employees that are in the business of producing wild animals, the popular ones like deer and ducks that are hunted, producing them for hunters and trappers to kill.
Wait, tell me who was doing this again?
A small group of state employees who work for the Department of Natural Resources, but they work in the wildlife division of DNR. Just a small set of people. And how do they do this? When we say, we ask ourselves, deer, for example, why are deer so abundant? Well, several reasons, but chiefly they are so abundant because this small part of state government is growing them for hunters. It has an area of land, public land, belongs to us. These are called wildlife management areas. Maybe you've seen the brown signs out in the country that mark these. These are not state parks. These are public hunting areas, which are unfenced and on which the very habitat is manipulated to make it able to contain dense numbers of the popular hunted species. We have in Georgia roughly 48,000 per year of deer vehicle collisions year after year.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And really, auto insurance companies should sue the state to enjoin it from producing deer. When I say that they're growing deer, how would you do such a thing? It works like this. The main methods of producing deer in Georgia are logging and burning in combination. In a forest, and many people believe that deer need old, big woods as living places. They do live in cathedral-like shade of big old forests, but there's not much for deer to eat there, so they live sparsely. But if you were to go in there and cut a set of trees, a collection of trees, then bright sunshine would directly strike the floor, the soil of the forest. And the soil always contains a lot of seeds of broadleaf weeds, which would not germinate in the shade, because to do so they would die in the shade. But with the bright sunshine on the soil above them, the seeds turn on and race up to the light. These are the low food plants of deer. And pregnant does have a physiological response to this. Where food is merely adequate, does bear mostly single fawns and a few twins. But in these conditions where there is a superabundance of food, they have more twins and even some triplets.
Wow.
This is the trick. Bright sunshine on the forest floor to make the deer food supply explode. Well, what about the other animals? The ones that the hunters ignore, the so-called non-game species. Well, the structure of the forest has been changed, altered by this logging and burning. Animals that live in trees, nesting birds and nestlings, are killed outright by the smoke and fire. Other animals that live in trees, possums, raccoons, many others. On the ground level, the animals that depend on a moist leaf layer, moist soil, such as salamanders, many invertebrates, the leaf mold, those are all killed by the fire. And certainly hardwood saplings, which are intolerant of fire, are killed this way. So what you wind up with is it's like a cornfield of pine trees. Particularly driving through South Georgia, you'll see these places that will go on for miles and miles like this. You'll see blackened tree trunks of pines. There won't be any forest understory or mid-story layer. And it's a very impoverished habitat where few things can live. So that's what we're up against in our state. But things are changing. When I started in this years ago, Georgia was about 7% hunters. And today it's holding on by its fingernails at somewhere around 4%. They jiggled with the licenses to make it appear that there are many more hunters than there are. But that was just sleight of hand. I believe that the state agencies like the Wildlife Division of DNR are hemorrhaging money as people quit hunting, and as they are unable to recruit as many children, to get as many children started killing animals as they need to replace the older people who get sick, age out, and stop.
Oh, well, gosh. So, I mean, yeah, I would see the brown signs and I would think, oh, well, that's good, right? I would think that animals are being protected there. And now I'm finding out something different.
Well, we don't say that no individual animal ever got any benefit from these places. We're glad that they are not under concrete or asphalt. That's something. And there's a set of animals that favor the same kind of habitat as deer and wild turkeys. Those animals can live there. They benefit from that. But they're on the other balance pan are the losers that need old big forests and moist conditions. We have many species of songbirds that are declining, some by as much as 6 to 13% a year.
Gosh, 16% a year. That's terrible.
I misspoke, 6 to 13.
Oh, 6 to 13, but still, that's terrible. That's terrible. Gosh.
Yeah. But the constituency for those is not as strong with the game department as in 1937, a law was passed during the Depression by the gun companies. The gun companies had a problem. There had been the great slaughter as of bison in the 1880s, and you think of all the animals that were killed. Well, by about the 1910s in Georgia, most any animal big enough to be shot, trapped, or poisoned had been. And the hunters looked around at each other and said, boys, there's nothing left to shoot. The gun companies needed to sell more guns and ammunition, and they saw hunters as their natural customers. So a law was passed in 1937. It's called the Pittman-Robertson Act. It has been amended many times since then, which takes it taxes gun makers, and then the revenue from this is allocated to the states, such as the Wildlife Division of DNR. And that pays for this logging and burning that I used in the previous example. That's where the money comes from to do those harmful things. Another feature of that same law said that the salaries of the game managers in DNR, although they are state employees, their paychecks must come from the agency's sale of hunting licenses. Now think about that. If fifth graders paid their teachers' salaries, all the students would get A's. That is the one hand washes the other relationship between the hunters and game managers, which we have to find a way to break. Wildlife policy and laws have to be made proportionate in the representation. DNR represents hunters and trappers, but in so doing, do they represent all the people? It can't be both ways. But there are encouraging changes popping up around the country as wildlife preservationists are here and there getting appointed to the boards and commissions that govern these state game departments. It's going to be a long goodbye to this destructiveness, but it's coming and it's inevitable.
So what about when we're donating money? How do we know we're donating money to someone that actually is taking care of the animals? Because I know you were talking about. Go ahead.
There's an excellent question. Be sure that the outfit that you donate to, that it represents your values. Be careful about the slippery word conservation. Now there are good applications for it, such as conservation biology. That's a good thing. But in its original meaning, conservation was taken to mean the use of the animals, the watersheds, the forests, the soil, everything was for use by humans for maximum use, maximum benefit of humans. Don't accept that word conservation on its face, because it's likely to mean something quite different from the way that you think it what you think it means. The National Wildlife Federation is an example of a group that gets checks from people around the country. You can see their Christmas stamps, the cardinal in the snow. You can see their magazines, National Wildlife, International Wildlife, in libraries of schools. But they favor trapping, and they support hunting on our national wildlife refuges. So ask the people that you donate to what their position is on these matters. And if they are at all mealy-mouthed or equivocate in their answer, find somebody good and donate to them.
So what would be the exact question we would ask?
What is your position on hunting?
Okay.
Where do you stand on trapping? And
okay.
Get your question. Ask hard questions and get your questions answered.
Well, this is good to know, because if I saw conservation, I would think, oh, well, that's all good. I mean, here's my money. So.
Yes, and the National Wildlife Federation, to take an extreme example, in 1972 there was a bill passed called the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and it made it illegal for Americans to kill or import parts of whales, walrus, polar bears, marine mammals. And the National Wildlife Federation, in concert with many of these other so-called traditional conservation organizations, wrote a last-minute letter to Richard Nixon trying to get him to veto this bill, but he signed it into law. And then the next year was the 1973 Endangered Species Act. So if they had succeeded in 1971, there would still be commercial whaling by Americans. A very good book, and you have to search for this one because it's out of print, but there are copies around, is Mankind, ? Our Incredible War on Wildlife by Cleveland Amory.
Mankind ?
Mankind ? Our Incredible War on Wildlife by Cleveland Amory.
Okay.
You'll see the backstory of many of these.
All right. Mankind is one word or two words?
Two.
Okay, I see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll put this title up here. Well, what about the deer? Well, I mean, feeding deer I know I have a lot of friends that want to know this answer. What about feeding deer, feeding animals, feeding raccoons?
Okay. You can have a bird feeder when the weather is turning off cold in the fall, but you'd like to taper it off in the spring. But feeding wildlife generally, no, and it's going to get wild animals killed. the National Park Service prohibits feeding of wildlife. It distorts their natural behaviors and causes them often to prefer unnatural foods, which many of them cannot digest. They cannot eat human food. White bread is something that people often give to ducks and geese, but it can result in angel wing, a wing deformation where they can't fly. Feeding raccoons is very unwise, as friendly as raccoons can be, because it brings them in, it causes them to congregate in an area, and the next door neighbor may not be someone who likes animals. That person may point and say, there are too many raccoons, you need to get somebody in here to kill them. When in fact, they're coming from a wide area to a free buffet. You have to stop the free buffet. They're the safest, dispersed, wary, and wild out on the landscape. And there's plenty of their natural foods. They're not going to starve, but you have to make them scrounge for dinner. With deer, it's particularly important not to feed deer. If you go in a Tractor Supply or maybe a Walmart, you may see a sack of something called deer corn.
I saw that the other day.
Deer corn is used by hunters to bait deer in to get them where they can kill them with an easy shot. That's their interest. But deer corn is illegal for feeding to livestock or for human consumption. It is an inferior corn that is that has a fungus that causes aflatoxin, which is a poison. Many smaller animals that eat this bait put out for deer and birds are poisoned by it.
Gosh.
So don't buy it, and make the deer work for their dinner. They'll live longer, and get a big pair of binoculars, a longer lens to bring them in closer.
Right. Okay.
Not food.
All right. Well, I got some more comments here. Let's say Angela's saying how it sickens her when she does her fitness walks on a beach, and on our pier, I see fathers teaching their children how to fish. Another generation of brutality. I know it is sickening, isn't it? Because children naturally don't want to kill. Yes. And then we've got Deb is saying it seems like the gun hunter lobby have an outsized influence in policy making laws compared to the number of people who don't own and hunt.
They do. And a follow-up point on that. We spoke about the gun tax under the Pittman-Robertson program. All purchasers of guns, not just hunters, everybody who buys guns for range shooting, competition, children who do target archery in the backyard, law enforcement, everybody who buys a gun, those guns are taxed into this program, of which only the hunters benefit. Okay? So when you hear about a mass shooting or a Saturday night special used to shoot somebody's spouse, or just someone who wants a gun for self-protection in their business or at home or in their car, all those guns and the ammunition pays this tax to benefit hunters, and it benefits them by doing this habitat manipulation we described, such as the burning and logging.
That's sickening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this is great to know. Let's see, what have we got? Deb saying also, yes, the names of these organizations are often very misleading. Yes, and she's also saying that she agrees with you about the feeders. And another problem are the cross-contamination factors involved in the feeders.
Yes. Anyone who feeds, say, birds, hummingbirds, they have a responsibility to keep feeders clean, and not let the seed get moist and moldy. Seed that in the sack looks gray or dusty should be thrown away and replaced with fresh.
Wow, well, that's very good to know. Well, let me ask you this. What about the wild horses?
The wild horses are a difficult question because they're feral animals. We have a problem on Cumberland Island, Georgia, where there is a strong argument for removing the horses from Cumberland, but then because they have a very difficult time living on this island, which is exposed, and there's little good nutrition for them there. The mares stay pregnant all the time. But it's a problem of the custody of them. Where would they go if the federal government removed them? We hope they would not go to the Bureau of Land Management in Nevada, which had a helicopter roundup this season and killed 39 wild horses in the process. So that's one that will require the wisdom of Solomon.
I think it was, I don't know whether it was Cowspiracy. I think it was Cowspiracy I was watching where they were just herding the wild horses, and there were more wild horses in pens than free. Yes. Is that right?
Yes, that is. And this is part of the Cowspiracy, that many of these Western ranchers and stockmen have the attitude that no animal other than cattle or sheep should get one molecule of water or one bit of nutrition. Anything else that's alive is seen as competition for their livestock, which they graze on public land that again belongs to us. They rent it at a subsidized, very low rate. So once again, one of the best things you can do for animals is not eat them.
What can we do to help the wild horses?
I would refer you to I don't know much about the wild horses, but I would refer you to Craig Downer, Downer, and his books. He is a PhD in equine ecology, someone that we work with from time to time who lives in Carson City, Nevada. And he wrote the book, The Wild Horse Conspiracy. So Craig is the expert we defer to about wild horses.
The Wild Horse Conspiracy. Wow. Okay. Yes. That is just sickening. The way that, well, I also saw in Cowspiracy how that cattle that's grazed, I guess you call it naturally, is less eco-friendly than factory farming. So I mean, it's just not sustainable. None of it's sustainable. But yes. It's none of it's sustainable. I mean, the best thing to do is not to eat animals. I mean, these animals, the animals are being just taken. They don't have any rights. They don't have any land left.
Yes. Now,
how much land is left for animals?
It's difficult to calculate, but because some animals do not require living in what we think of as a pristine, gigantic wilderness. there are wilderness species that do. Grizzly bears have to live in such places, but many animals can live successfully in quite small spaces in the interstices between subdivisions and houses. Even grizzly bears, there was a case in which a subdivision in Anchorage was found to have a vacant lot at one end, and there was a grizzly bear mother there raising her cubs on that tiny piece of land. So animals, if we will give them a little chance, they can make it surprisingly well close to us. One species that is very successful is coyotes. Coyotes were brought to Georgia in the 1930s by fox hunters in rural Turner County and released for the dogs to chase. And over the years, they have spread to all 159 Georgia counties. And it used to be argued that, well, deer have no natural predators. Well, now they do. And the coyotes are doing a good job of giving the lie to the hunting industry, because they are controlling the deer herd in Georgia better than human hunters. In fact, the state herd is said to be down about 2/3 since the, I believe, the early 90s.
Well, that's very interesting, because I hear people saying that they shouldn't be here, but now you're telling me that we brought them. I mean, they were brought to Georgia by the fox hunters.
They were brought here by hunters. We have the gray fox. The gray fox is one of the only canids, wild dogs, that can climb trees. So these fox hunters would chase a gray fox a distance, and then the fox would tree and the hunt would be over. They wanted another animal that would run for miles and miles.
Gosh.
So that's how we came to have coyotes.
That is sickening. I mean, it's sickening that how can we get enjoyment from killing? It's awful. And Angela's saying, so we manipulate.
We don't.
No, we don't. You're right. We don't.
Right.
Right.
But coyotes are beneficial animals, and they make good neighbors.
Oh, I love them. So
an adult will eat up to 1,800 rats and mice a year.
Wow. Okay. And yeah. So, well, Angela's saying, so
they're the best. They're the best in free pest control.
And they are a keystone species.
Indeed.
So can you tell us what that means?
A keystone species can be thought of as the keystone that holds up a bridge, or an arch. The component without which the community would collapse. Beavers are keystone aquatic species. A beaver pond is far richer in species than one without. And our terrestrial communities of animals with coyotes are more biodiverse than if there were not coyotes. It seems like a paradox, but it's not when you think about it.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, I volunteer at the Nature Center, and I think about, well, the gopher tortoise, how the gopher tortoise creates the habitat for 350 other animals.
Yes.
So
in the South Georgia pine sandy soils there, we're
right.
Here our forest type is unlike where the gopher tortoises live.
Right. Yes. We have two at the Nature Center, and where they were found on asphalt. So I mean, they can't go back to their habitat,
Mm-hmm.
and they the nails, or was it nails or claws? I guess are worn down, so they can't survive. So anyway, they're very docile and beautiful animals.
They are.
So yes, and so Angela's saying we manipulate one breed, turning on another. It's very, very sad how we're using animals for not us again, for people's entertainment, which doesn't even make sense that we would want to see a living being die. I mean, what does that say about humanity?
Yes. Canada geese are another species. There were no Canada geese in Georgia before 1970. A Canada goose that was here would be what a birder would call an accidental, an individual that was blown off course in a storm. But DNR, knowing of the presence of these Canada geese in some mid-Atlantic states, where people were complaining of the goose poop around lakes and lawns, they took this money this revenue from the gun tax, and over 17 summers they drove to these states in the time of summer when the geese are molting and can't fly. They collected them and they brought them back to Georgia and released them on farm ponds and streams for hunters.
Gosh, that's sickening.
Their object was to get the flock up to a huntable size of about 25,000 birds. And when they did, they had a season of 1 day and a bag limit of 1 goose. Then after that, they ratcheted it up over the years. So that's why we have Canada geese, and they are scapegoated by the agency. DNR blames geese for things, but they never asked to be here.
Gosh, just like the coyotes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I know, and I hear so many horrible comments about them, and I feel so bad for them. I can't stand it. What about snakes? I know people hate snakes and kill snakes. If they see a snake, they automatically just kill the poor snake.
Well, that is something done out of ignorance. Under state law, it is illegal to kill any non-venomous snake. But really, venomous snakes, a person is not going to get bitten if they don't try to handle or kill the snake. The number of people who, walking along a trail, see a snake and they say, "A snake," then they turn around 180 degrees and walk in the opposite direction. The number of those people bitten by snakes is 0.
Right. Yes, and we got some snake lovers watching, Angela and I. So I volunteer, at the Nature Center, and I handle snakes, and so I love working with the snakes. But I was with one of the naturalists who said that the best prevention for a snake bite is, and then he held up the keys, right? Here's what you need is your keys. And he said,
car keys and a cell phone.
Yep. Right, car keys and a cell phone. And he said that, I think he said something like only 3 people a year die of snake bite, something like that, yes. Or some tiny. Yeah. And so that's very important to know. And he also told a story of, there was I don't know who it was. It was another naturalist that was taking little 5-year-old and 6-year-olds around in a park area. And then she saw them stepping over, and she looked back, and it was a copperhead or a rattlesnake. I'm not sure which one it was, but and so she said, "What are you stepping over?" Right. And but no, there was no fear on the children's part. The snake wasn't afraid. And then she carefully told them, what we need to do is move out of the way and tell an adult. But right. So exactly what you're saying, that snake was not going to hurt. Well, the snake didn't hurt those children. So it's very interesting.
As Rodney King said, hey, can't we all just get along here?
Right, exactly. And here's what Deb says. She's saying snakes don't chase humans. They warn and try to avoid us. You're right. That's exactly right. They do. Even the snakes that don't have rattles, they still rattle their tail. And we have an older snake and she's missing part of her tail, so she can't do that. So she's at the nature center. So
that's good work you do there. Mariquita, forgive me, but I need to excuse myself at this time, but it's been wonderful being with you and your viewers, and they are very keen animal people, we can tell.
Well, this has been wonderful, John. You're going to have to come back next year again for another round two.
It would be my pleasure.
Yeah, this has been. Yes, and wait, where can people find you again? Or they need to go to the Humane. Tell us again that website.
Okay, we'll go back over a quick recap. There is the Humane Society Legislative Fund, HSLF.org. There is our national organization, the League of Humane Voters, LOHV.org. There is the book Getting Through to People by Nierenberg. There is the book Mankind, Our Incredible War on Wildlife by Cleveland Amory. ProjectCoyote.org is excellent. What am I leaving out?
The horse book.
Okay. The horse book is by Craig Downer, Downer, The Wild Horse Conspiracy. All right.
All right.
Thank you
so much, y'all.
We
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, John.
Bye.